Welcome to Craving the Heat, where desire takes the lead and every story leaves you wanting more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments and keep up with our latest naughty stories. It started as an ordinary day one where the routine felt comforting, almost predictable. But it turned into something I never saw coming. My name is Sarah, and I've been married to David for over 5 years. David had a son, Alex, from his previous marriage. When we first met, Alex was a shy, reserved boy of 12. Now, at 16, he was practically a young adult, and although we'd grown close over the years, I never imagined that the events of one afternoon would shatter everything. I thought I knew about him. David, I had always had a strong relationship, built on trust and understanding. But like most blended families, we had our ups and downs. Alex was a teenager, and that meant a lot of things were left unsaid between us. I understood him in ways that sometimes made me feel like a second mother, yet other times I felt like an outsider in his life. The gap between his biological mother and me was wide, and there were things he wouldn't discuss with me, teenage problems, his evolving emotions, and the deep-rooted conflicts he had over his parents' divorce. That afternoon, I had just come back from running errands. David was out of town on a business trip, and the house felt emptier than usual. I figured it was the perfect opportunity to catch up on a few things at home. As I entered the house, I noticed the front door was ajar, which was odd because Alex was supposed to be at a friend's house. "Alex?" I called out, expecting to hear his usual response. When no one answered, I decided to check the kitchen. It was quiet, too quiet, and the air seemed tense. I then walked up the stairs and noticed that his bedroom door was slightly open. I was about to knock when I heard something that made my heart stop. There was soft music playing in the background. But what caught my attention were the sounds, odd and familiar noises coming from inside his room. My initial thought was that Alex might have friends over, but the longer I listened, the more certain I was that something was off. I hesitated for a moment, torn between barging in and respecting his privacy. But something in my gut told me I had to know what was going on. I pushed the door open slowly, and what I saw inside left me frozen in shock. Alex was standing by his window, not looking at me, but at something or someone on the other side of the room. There, standing in front of him, was a girl one I'd never seen before. She was wearing nothing but a towel, and the scene before me was intimate, far more intimate than I was prepared for. The girl was laughing nervously, but Alex didn't seem to notice my presence. I stood there, unable to speak, feeling a rush of emotions I couldn't fully process in the moment: anger, confusion, disappointment. How could this happen in my own house? Why was he letting this happen? The silence between us stretched on for what felt like forever, until Alex turned around and caught sight of me in the doorway. His face turned pale, and I could see the blood drain from his cheeks. The girl, looking equally horrified, grabbed her clothes in a rush, and I could tell from the frantic way they scrambled that they hadn't expected to get caught. The shame in Alex's eyes was undeniable, and I could feel my own chest tightening with the weight of the situation. "Mom, I can explain," Alex stammered, his voice trembling as he fumbled for words. I shook my head, my heart pounding. In my chest, "What's going on here, Alex? Who is she?" His eyes darted between me and the girl, who was now pulling on our shirt as quickly as she could. "Her name is Clara. She's a friend," he said weakly. I could see the hesitation in his eyes, the guilt that was written all over his face. This wasn't just a casual visit from a friend. Something was off, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I wasn't just angry, I was scared. Scared of what Alex was becoming. Scared of what he was hiding, scared of the lies that were beginning to unravel. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I need to understand why this is happening in my house, Alex. Why didn't you tell me about her? Why did you hide this?" Alex opened his mouth to speak but stopped, clearly unsure of how to proceed. He took a step back, and I could tell that whatever he was going to say was going to change everything between us. The girl, Clara, seemed just as uncomfortable with the situation, and after a long pause, she spoke softly, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen, she said, her gaze lowered to the floor. I looked at Alex then, my eyes searching his face for any hint of the young boy I had known. Alex, you need to tell me the truth, now. His face was a mixture of guilt and confusion. Finally, he whispered, I didn't think it was a big deal. She's someone I've been talking to online. We've been close for a while. I didn't know how to tell you. I blinked in disbelief, the words sinking in slowly. You didn't think it was a big deal? Alex, this is serious. What you're doing is crossing a line, and this is not. Okay, you're not just dealing with a simple crush. This is about respect, boundaries, and trust. You've broken that trust. The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear the weight of my words hanging in the air, and I could see that Alex understood just how much he had disappointed me. I never meant for it to get this far, he said, his voice barely audible. I didn't know how to talk to you about it. It was then that I realized the full extent of the situation. This wasn't just about Alex sneaking around with a girl in my house. It was about something deeper. There was a rift growing between us, a gap that had slowly widened over the past few months. I had assumed that Alex and I were still close, but in reality, he had been withdrawing, pulling away from me and from our family. I hadn't seen the signs, hadn't noticed how much he was changing. I took a step back, allowing Alex and Clara to gather their things and leave the room. Once they were gone, I sat down on his bed, feeling the weight of it all settle on me. This wasn't just about one mistake. It was about the growing distance between us, the emotional wall Alex had put up, and my failure to recognize it sooner. The next few days were filled with tension, awkward silence, and uncomfortable conversations. I found myself questioning everything, what had gone wrong, where we had lost touch, and how I could rebuild the bond with my stepson that had been so strong in the past. David's absence during this time only made it harder. I had no one to talk to, no one to confide in. The trust I had built with Alex over the years had been shattered, and I knew how to fix it. The damage done in that one moment of walking in on my stepson alone had changed everything. It wasn't just about what happened with Clara, it was about the realization that things were changing in ways I wasn't prepared for. In the months that followed, I worked hard to rebuild my relationship with Alex. We talked about the boundaries he had crossed, the mistakes he had made, and the deeper emotional struggles he was dealing with. Slowly but surely, I began to understand him better, and he started to open up to me in ways he hadn't before. The journey wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I had walked in on my stepson alone that day, but what followed, what we both went through, changed me in ways I never could have anticipated. It taught me the importance of communication, trust, and the need to stay connected no matter how difficult the conversation might be. It wasn't just a lesson about Alex. It was a lesson about myself, about parenting, and about the unpredictable path that life sometimes takes. After the incident, things didn't just go back to normal. No matter how much I tried to pretend it was all okay, the reality of what I had seen, the intimacy, the secrecy was too heavy. It was like an invisible barrier had been placed between Alex and me, one that neither of us knew how to cross in the following days. I tried to speak with David, but every time I thought about telling him what had happened, I hesitated. What would he say? Would he blame me? Would he think I was overreacting? I kept everything inside, thinking it was my responsibility to fix things with Alex on my own. After all, I was a stepmother, not his biological mother, and maybe that made me feel like I didn't have the right to intervene in the way I wanted to, but that didn't stop the emotions from boiling inside of me. I had to do something. I couldn't just let this pass. Alex's behavior was a cry for help, and I was determined to understand what was really going on in his life. One night, after dinner, when David was still away on his business trip, I invited Alex to sit with me. On the porch, the evening air was cool and the house felt peaceful, almost too peaceful. There was a lingering tension, though, that neither of us could ignore. Alex sat down beside me, a little further away than usual, his posture defensive, his eyes avoiding mine. I cleared my throat, trying to sound casual. "I think we need to talk," I said, my voice steady but tinged with emotion. Alex glanced at me, his lips pressing into a thin line. "About what?" he asked, his tone flat, almost dismissive. "About everything," I replied, trying to find the right words. "About you, about me, about what's been happening lately." There was a long pause before Alex spoke again. "I don't really want to talk about it," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. I felt my heart sink. This was exactly what I feared. The walls between us had grown too high, and no matter how hard I tried to break them down, Alex wasn't ready to let me in. "Alex, I saw you that day," I said softly. "And I know you're struggling with something, but shutting me out isn't going to help." He stiffened at my words, his eyes finally meeting mine. The look in his eyes was a mix of anger and guilt, like he was being forced into a corner he wasn't ready to face. "I'm not a kid anymore," he said, his voice rising slightly. "You can't just tell me what to do. You don't understand." The frustration in his voice made me want to retreat, but I didn't. I couldn't. "I might not understand everything, but I do understand that you're hurting, Alex. You don't have to go through this alone. You don't have to hide it from me." Alex's face twisted with emotion, his defenses cracking for a split second. "You wouldn't get it," he muttered, looking away again. "You're not my real mom." His words stung more than I expected. Even after all these years, the reminder that I was just the stepmom hit me like a slap in the face. I swallowed hard, feeling the sting of rejection, but I didn't let it show. "I might not be your real mom, but I'm here for you, Alex. I always have been." He stayed silent for a moment, and then, as though the weight of his emotions finally became too much to carry, he let out a long sigh. "It's not just about Clara, it's about everything, Sarah. It's about my parents, the divorce, moving here with you and Dad, and all the stuff I'm dealing with that no one knows about." The raw honesty in his voice caught me off guard. For the first time in a long while, I saw the little boy I had known, the one who had always turned to me for comfort when things went wrong. He was still in there, hiding beneath the surface, confused, angry, and hurt. I took a deep breath and placed a hand on his shoulder. "I didn't know you felt like this," I said softly. "I'm sorry if I've made you feel like you're alone. But I want you to know that you don't have to hide things from me. We can talk about whatever it is, together." Alex didn't look at me, but I could see his shoulders relax, just a little. The tension in the air had shifted, and for the first time since the incident, I felt like I was starting to break through to him. "I don't know if I can trust you," Alex admitted quietly, his voice full of vulnerability. "I don't know if I can trust anyone right now." The words hung in the air between us, heavy with unspoken pain. I had known that Alex was struggling, but hearing it out loud made everything seem so much more real. His father and I had always tried our best to make him feel at home, but the weight of the past was something he couldn't easily shake off. "I understand," I said gently, squeezing his shoulder. "It's okay to feel that way, but trust takes time. And I'm not going anywhere. Alex, whenever you're ready to talk, I'll be here. I promise." We sat in silence for a few more minutes, the night stretching on, but this time the silence felt different. It wasn't just a void of awkwardness or tension. It felt like the first step toward healing, a first step that Alex had finally taken. Over the following weeks, we began to rebuild our relationship piece by piece. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks, difficult conversations, and moments of tension. But I could see the change in Alex, the gradual shift as he started opening up more to me. He began talking about the things that had been weighing on him, the divorce, his confusion about relationships, his struggle to find his place in this new family dynamic. And I listened, truly listened, in a way that I hadn't before. Through it all, I realized that the incident with Clara wasn't just a one-time mistake. It was a reflection of everything Alex was going through. It was a cry for help, a sign that he was lost and needed guidance. And though I couldn't change the past, I could help him move forward, step by step. Months later, after many conversations and a lot of work, Alex and I found a new understanding. Our bond wasn't perfect, but it was stronger than it had been in a long time. And I realized something important, that love doesn't always come in the form you expect. It's not just about being a biological mother or father. It's about showing up, being present, and offering support when it's needed most. The day David returned from his trip, I shared everything with him. What had happened, what Alex had confided in me, and how we were working through it. He was shocked, but grateful that Alex was finally opening up. Together, we decided to approach things as a family, with open communication and a willingness to understand each other. That day, when I walked in on my stepson alone, it changed everything. It shattered the illusion of perfection enforced. You risked to face the truth, but through the pain and confusion, it also gave us the chance to heal, to grow, and to rebuild a stronger connection than we ever thought possible. The days after that conversation felt like a strange new beginning. It was as if the weight that had been pressing down on us was finally starting to lift, but it was replaced with something equally heavy: the need for deeper understanding, forgiveness, and rebuilding trust. For weeks, I watched Alex closely. He was still distant, but his behavior began to change in subtle ways. It wasn't instant and it wasn't dramatic, but there was a softness to him that hadn't been there before. He was less defensive, less angry. There were days when I could tell he wanted to talk, but he didn't know how to start. So I made it a point to leave the door open. One afternoon, Alex came to me, a notebook clutched in his hands. He looked nervous, and for a moment, I feared the worst. Was he about to push me away again? Was he going to shut down? My heart was already racing as he sat down next to me on the couch. I've been thinking about what we talked about, he began, his voice hesitant, unsure. I don't really know how to say this, but I started writing some stuff down. I nodded, encouraging him silently. He opened the notebook and flipped to a page filled with scribbled words, but it wasn't just random thoughts. It was a collection of his fears, frustrations, and regrets, each word drenched with emotion. I could see how much pain he had been, holding on to, how he had internalized everything: the divorce, the moving, the sense of being alone, and the struggle to find his identity in a fractured world. I didn't think I could talk about this, not to anyone, Alex said, his voice cracking. But writing it down helped. I didn't realize how much I needed to get it out. I'm sorry for shutting you out, Sarah. It's not that I didn't care. I don't know how to deal with everything. I sat quietly, letting him pour out his heart. The more he spoke, the clearer it became that the boy I had thought I knew had been hiding a storm of emotions underneath a calm exterior. He wasn't just a teenager rebelling against rules. He was a boy trying to make sense of his world, one that had been torn apart by things he couldn't control. I feel like I'm always just in the way, Alex continued. Like, no matter what I do, I can't make anyone happy. I messed up with Clara, but I didn't know how to stop. I don't know why I did it. I guess I thought it would make things feel better, but it didn't. Tears welled up in my eyes as I listened. Alex wasn't just apologizing for the incident with Clara. He was apologizing for the deeper hurt that had been festering inside of him for so long. I reached out and placed my hand on his, offering a steady anchor for his vulnerable heart. It's okay, I said softly, my voice steady. You're not alone, Alex. You never have been. I know it's hard to see it now, but this isn't about you messing up. It's about understanding what's been going on inside. And we're going to work through it together. He looked at me, his eyes filled with uncertainty, but also a spark of hope, like he was starting to believe me. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was making progress. There were still wounds to heal, but we had taken a huge step forward in understanding each other. The next few weeks were a slow but steady recovery. Alex began attending therapy with me, something I had suggested gently, not wanting to push him into it too quickly. But he agreed, and seeing him open up with a therapist about his struggles made me proud of him. It was as if he was finally willing to confront the demons he had been running from. We also started spending more time together. I stopped looking at him through the lens of a stepmother, and instead saw him as the young man who was becoming, someone who was struggling, but trying to find his way. We started doing things he enjoyed, things that didn't involve serious talks or emotional confrontations. Sometimes it was as simple as watching a movie together or playing video games like we used to when he was younger. Small moments, but they meant everything one evening. While we were cooking dinner together, something we hadn't done in a long time, Alex surprised me. He turned to me while chopping vegetables and said, "You know, I really appreciate you, Sarah. I think I've been a jerk to you for no reason. You didn't deserve that." The sincerity in his voice made my heart swell with emotion. He was finally acknowledging what I had been feeling for so long, that there had been a distance between us, and he hadn't known how to bridge it. But now he was reaching out, and it felt like a breakthrough. "I appreciate you too, Alex," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "You're an incredible person. I just need you to know that you can always come to me no matter what." He nodded, looking more relaxed than I had seen him in months. The walls between us were finally starting to crumble, and I could feel a shift in the atmosphere, like we were finally reconnecting in a way that felt real, not forced. But even with this progress, there were still things that needed to be addressed. The incident with Clara wasn't something I could just let go of. It wasn't about punishing him or making him feel guilty. It was about teaching him the value of boundaries, respect, and self-worth. One evening after a quiet dinner, I sat down with Alex to have a final conversation about the situation with Clara. "Alex," I began gently, "I know things with her have been complicated, and I know you made a mistake, but I want you to understand something important. What you did wasn't just about breaking my trust, it was about your own boundaries, and understanding what you want from relationships." Alex looked down, his fingers twisting nervously. "I know, I think I was looking for something, but I don't know what. It just felt good to be wanted, you know? I didn't think about the consequences." I nodded, understanding where he was coming from. It's normal to want to feel needed, but relationships have to be based on trust, respect, and honesty. You deserve better than just rushing into things. Don't ever forget that you have the power to decide what kind of person you want to be in those situations. There was a long pause as Alex absorbed my words. Finally, he looked up, a new understanding in his eyes. "I get it, Sarah. I'll do better." I smiled, proud of him for acknowledging the lesson. "That's all I can ask for, Alex. I believe in you." That conversation marked a turning point, not just for Alex, but for me as well. It wasn't just about being a stepmother. It was about being a guide, a listener, and a source of support when he needed it the most. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I knew that with time, patience, and love, we could navigate whatever came our way. As the months passed, Alex continued to mature, and our bond grew even stronger. We learned to trust each other again, this time with a deeper understanding of who we were as individuals and as family. And even though the incident with Clara was something we both wished never happened, it served as the catalyst for the healing we both so desperately needed. Looking back, I realized that moment when I walked in on my stepson alone wasn't the end of our story. It was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where we both learned what it truly meant to be a family.